Aside from their unparalleled reputation, if there is anything drug lords have amassed over the years, it is wealth. Today we're talking about the world's richest drug lords, and some of these facts are going to leave you in shock. Number 1. Khun Sa, heroin, armies and wealth.
In one of the poorest valleys in Burma lives a man named Khun Sa, and he is a multi-millionaire. He is a father whose trade kills children, a monarch who cries freedom, a drug dealer who builds schools.
The king of opium, Khun Sa, originally named Chang Chi Fu, was born in 1934 in Myanmar's Shan state to a Hakka family. Born to a Chinese father and a Shan mother, he was both a drug lord and a seemingly patriotic Shan fighter within the conflict-ridden area. Born an orphan, Khun Sa received his education on warfare from the Chinese nationalist military, who were in flight from Mao's China. Out of this storm of war, he fashioned an empire, using drugs, rebellion and greed, to control one of the world's biggest dealers of narcotics. The world is unlikely ever to forget a man of such deeds. By the 1980s, he had commanded a vast drug network controlling nearly 70% of Myanmar's heroin trade. His fortune was unimaginable, his army formidable, and his mansion hidden deep in the Shan Hills, a palace of excess. Tales of opulence surrounded his estate, from lavish banquets to rumors of gold-encrusted furnishings. Khun Sa revealed his notoriety, proclaiming himself the king of the Golden Triangle. Behind the image was a shadowy organization, reportedly run by ethnic Chinese operatives from Yunnan province, that managed the complex logistics of his heroin empire. Khun Sa turned the Golden Triangle into the womb of heroin production in the world. By the early 1990s, the DEA estimated that 45% of the heroin saturating the US street market originated from his fields. He was soon nicknamed the ultimate kingpin, and was on the list of the most wanted people in the world. In addition to trafficking, Khun Sa posited himself as a leader of the Shans and used money from drugs to finance the Mong Thai army of several thousand gunmen to wage war for Shan statehood, or secession, at the least. Some opponents are said to have distinguished his nationalism by branding him as a kingpin of the narcotics business. Khun Sa was first imprisoned by the Burmese government in 1969. However, he re-emerged in the 70s, setting up his headquarters near Chiang Rai in Thailand. By the 1980s, his empire spread across the world. Heroin factories prepared tons of heroin for exportation, putting Napoleon's control of the drug market into an unparalleled position. In 1996, Khun Sa surrendered to Myanmar's military junta. Some say he brokered his way into a comfortable retirement, trading his empire for amnesty. His life in Yangon was shrouded in mystery, though reports suggest he lived under house arrest, enjoying a modest but secure existence. His children, educated abroad, pursued legitimate business ventures, leaving the shadow of their father's legacy behind. Khun Sa's death in 2007 at 73 marked the end of an era. Number 2. Jorge Luis Ochoa Vázquez.
La están produciendo, la están vendiendo, el problema de la marihuana se terminó.
The most successful drug trafficker in the history of the illicit narcotics business is someone you've probably never heard of, but I promise you, he is the godfather of narco trafficking and had a bigger global impact on the criminal underworld than any other outlaw of the 20th century. His name is Jorge Ochoa.
Jorge Luis Ochoa Vázquez, another kingpin of the Medellin cartel, was responsible for organizing a drug business empire worth $1 billion, made through theft, violence, deceit, and greed. Though he is feared here, as in most parts of the world today, his impact has been that of power and war alongside destruction. Born into the Ochoa family, who once thrived in cattle breeding and the restaurant business, Jorge Luis was no stranger to wealth. But by the late 1970s, he was already taking the reins of the family's cocaine exporting empire. A ruthless and calculating figure, Ochoa took over the drug operations after having his boss executed in 1977. This bold move set the stage for a cartel empire that would go on to control nearly 30% of the global cocaine trade. Jorge Luis Ochoa was one of the most wanted men in the world by the middle of the 1980s as a leader of the Medellin cartel along with Pablo Escobar. His net worth approached $3 billion, and he was among Forbes's 10 richest men in the world in 1987. His empire distributed drugs across the continents, but his business was to put him on the wrong side of the law. That year, he was indicted in the US for planning for cocaine trafficking through Nicaragua and spent years fighting for extradition from both the US and Colombia. In 1987, Ochoa was arrested again for using a bull smuggling scheme, then disappeared from prison for the ultimate representation of his arrogance for escaping legal retribution. His cartel was heavily against extradition and often threatened Colombian officials, which further helped him build his infamy. In 1991, Ochoa handed himself to Colombian police and courts under amnesty, intended to decrease cartel brutality. He lasted only 5 years and 10 months in power and was released in 1996 from prison, through which Gulf's one of the most famous drug lords in the world was brought to close.
But with all their violence, their wealth, and their power, they seem to have intimidated, corrupted, overwhelmed much of Colombian government and Colombian society. A lot of important people here say the days of fighting the drug bosses in Colombia are over.
Once a powerful kingpin, Jorge Luis Ochoa, who was one of the biggest leaders of the Medellin cartel, has lost everything: grand mansions, luxury cars, and miles of vast cattle ranches. His empire vanished into insignificance, and he lived the rest of his life as a liberated but helpless man. Ochoa's story continues in such movies as Narcos, with Andre Matos and Alejandro Eder, and American Made. His premature political career is a dramatic, cautionary drama of greed and blood, the lethal consequences of the drug business. Ochoa's life has been as a billionaire drug lord and a prisoner, which are events that tell of the short reign of the Medellin cartel. Number 3, Dawood Ibrahim.
The difference is, despite international blacklisting as the most wanted, he remains safe in Pakistan's Karachi. He and his D company continues to operate freely, and today their nexus is spread beyond the Arabian Sea. The king of Mumbai, Underworld, Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar, is well on his way to claim his share in the international underworld as Dawoodistan.
Dawood is also found in drugs, smuggling of drugs in India. तो मुझे लगा ये इम्पोर्टेंट स्टोरी है, और दुबई में बैठ के वो वहाँ कर रहे तो ज़रूर लिखनी चाहिए, क्योंकि दुबई के शेख्स और जनरली जो इस्लामिक कंट्री है वो भी सेंसिटिव होते हैं ऐसे कुछ बातों में.
Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar, born on December 26, 1955 in Maharashtra, was a constable, and he is one of the world's most wanted criminals. After his brother Shabir was used in the last decade of the 20th century, he established D Company, which was first involved in gold smuggling and extortion. The gang was transformed into a criminal organization of an international syndicate for drug trafficking, arms supply, money laundering businessmen and terrorists, and other social evils. By the 1980s, his business reached over continents with a turnover of more than £1 billion and became known as the most dangerous man on the earth. But it was the notorious 1993 Bombay bombings that made him an outlaw across the globe. Coordinated explosions killed more than 250 people in the city, and Ibrahim was tagged as the mastermind. That act of terrorism not only landed him on India's most wanted list, but also turned him into an international target of agencies. From being a man who once eluded the police in Mumbai, he became the symbol of international terror. It is sheer madness. The power base and wealth of the man that is Dawood Ibrahim was phenomenal. For years, Forbes put him on the list of the richest criminals, estimating his earnings at billions of dollars. As the boss of D Company, he works across the world and is used in drug peddling, fake currency, arms dealing and funding terror. He also had relations with Al-Qaeda, providing the supply routes and financing the Taliban. While as an asylum seeker in Afghanistan in the mid-1990s, he lived like a king. He had mansions in Pakistan, Dubai, and India, and to name but a few. He owned 9 properties within Karachi alone, one of which was in Nurabad. India tried to take pictures of his assets for sale and had him telephonically assure the Indians he was in Karachi, but the Pakistani government continued to deny his presence in their country. Responsible for a criminal syndicate besides sponsoring terrorist organizations such as Lashkar-e-Tayyiba and its operatives associated with Al-Qaeda, Ibrahim was an infamous terror financier. Still, he is on the run and does not appear physically, and he is one of the most wanted men in the world. Today, Dawood Ibrahim is also thought to remain in Karachi. However, this doesn't loosen his grip on the underworld at all. Dawood's legacy of terrorism, wealth and crime further defines the criminals in South Asia, the Middle East and Europe. His vast empire of criminality, like that of the once great Pablo Escobar, carries on with that same ruthlessness and wealth in making him an internationally feared one. For the governments that hunt him, Dawood Ibrahim is a ghost, a figure of terror and unimaginable wealth who is always just out of reach. Number 4. Amado Carrillo Fuentes' legacy.
The most powerful drug trafficker of his time. This was not an understatement. As the head of the drug cartel of the Ciudad Juarez in northern Mexico, the man flooded the US with cheap cocaine, amassing a fortune worth billions of dollars. Thanks to his innovative use of Boeing jets, he almost monopolized the drug routes in Central and Northern America, surpassing in wealth, influence and power his more notorious Colombian counterparts.
Amado Carrillo Fuentes, who was known as El Señor de los Cielos, or the Lord of the Skies, was one of the most influential drug barons in history. Amado was born on December 17, 1956, in Guamuchil, Sinaloa, Mexico, though like many drug lords initially did not have money inherited to him being intelligent and tenacious in his criminal mind. He embarked on his criminal career in the 1980s, serving under Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo in the Guadalajara drug cartel. It marked his rise to stardom when he captured the Juarez cartel in the early 90s, which presented him as the ultimate symbol of crime, power, money, and influence.
Helpless families are being innocently killed down there. It's not just got caught in gunfire in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is a whole new level of cartel violence. As of this point, it's not over. We still don't know what's going to happen next.
Juan Arnaldo Carrillo Fuentes, alias the Lord of the Skies, headed the Juarez cartel and transformed drug trafficking through planes blowing more than 50 tons of cocaine every month. Currently, his drug business has extended over Mexico, the United States and Europe, including mansions and a palace in Mexico City that are fitted with underground escape tunnels. His cartel was not only involved in violent confrontations that led to the deaths of at least hundreds, he also became rich from the drug business, threats and money laundering. Amado may have been more than all these vices, but he ruled by terror and was aggressive. In 1997, his life was tragically cut short in an apparent suicide, following a failed attempt at changing his appearance through plastic surgery to elude the law. Rumors circulate today claiming that he is alive. His absence created a void. Cartels fought after him, and his money was still making its rounds in the drug underground for several years. His patronage included corrupt politicians, police, and military, and that is why Amado almost could not be apprehended until his death. From a small beginning in Sinaloa to becoming one of the wealthiest and most feared men in the world, Amado's legacy endures. His wealth, estimated at billions, continues to fuel the global drug trade even after his death, with much of his fortune believed to have been hidden away by his cartel associates. His mansions, now abandoned, stand as silent reminders of his reign over the skies, the drug trade, and the fortunes that were built on a foundation of fear, blood, and betrayal. And now the moment you've been waiting for, Pablo Escobar, the godfather of them all. Compared to him, the other kingpins in this video are just small-time players. Get ready for the story of the man who conquered the world with an iron fist and a mountain of cash. Number 5. Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar es un recuerdo doloroso para la historia colombiana. Jefe del cartel de Medellín, uno de los carteles más poderosos que ha tenido no solamente el país y el mundo.
One of the richest men in the world, Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Emilio Escobar, a name that echoes in the corridors of both crime and infamy, is one of the most notorious figures in history. Born in 1949 in Rio Negro, Colombia, Escobar's journey from a small-time criminal to the world's most dangerous and wealthy drug lord is the stuff of legend.
Pablo Escobar quería controlar la distribución de cocaína en las calles de Estados Unidos y principalmente de Nueva York. Entonces había una disputa por la distribución en Nueva York entre...
Escobar was not born into wealth. This man was from Medellin, a city in which he would later forge his criminal empire, though details of his early life here remain somewhat sketchy. Born a farmer, Escobar saw power and money when his father died. He became a young boy in search of those things at any cost. As he was penetrating the criminal world further, Escobar's assets increased and his appetite for more was continuous. In the 1980s, someone he became the leader of the Medellin cartel, the cocaine trafficking organization that supplied cocaine in large quantities to the United States, thus attracting him the title the King of Cocaine. Many of his fellow billionaires may have hardly known the name Pablo Escobar, but by the time he was shot to death in Medellin in December 1993, he was believed to be owning up to $30 billion, which ranked him among the richest men on earth. Beneath his acquisition of the world drug czar and controlling the distribution of cocaine, his financial might was beyond amusing. It is reported that he used to travel thousands of dollars every year to sustain his luxurious life, where the gifts for his family included funds tied up with rubber bands. The magnitude of his wealth allowed him to establish such an empire that not only shaped Colombia politics, economic system, but the world politics. His opulent lifestyle was embodied by his infamous mansion. The Hacienda Nápoles was a sprawling estate that once served as his kingdom. Located in the heart of the Colombian jungle, it boasted private airstrips, a zoo with exotic animals and massive swimming pools. The property symbolized Escobar's godlike power and his desire for extravagance. Though the mansion is now a museum and theme park, it remains a testament to his boundless wealth.
Our family home, we used to live there, but I started to be so aware of the consequences of my father's actions because I was forced to hide more than he. He was more free than I was in that time.
Born into a life of crime, Pablo Escobar's Medellin cartel exacted a heavy price for its control of the cocaine trade in Colombia. Bodies of drug rivals, politicians, and uncounted bystanders piled up. Of bombings, assassinations, and bribery, or a people whose chief was known to ruthlessly rise to the top, literally any means was acceptable. For the next few years, Escobar dodged the Colombian and US warrants by bribing officials in the country and using his wealth to appear as though he was immune to capture. He also secured a strange surrender, which consisted of constructing and ruling his exclusive jail. The tale, immortalized in books and films, thoroughly represents the terrible consequences that the advent of greed and ambition can lead to. The story of Pablo Escobar, his life, and particularly his death, will be remembered as a cautionary tale of power unbounded. Escobar may have been brought down by his enemies and the relentless pursuit of justice, but his legacy endures, a reminder of a man whose wealth was both his power and his downfall. Who else do you think should make the list? Don't forget to mention in the comments below and press the subscribe button for more interesting insights just like this. Thanks for watching.